A single decision made in secret would change the fate of an entire nation. In 1953, a democratically elected leader in Iran was suddenly overthrown. The government collapsed almost overnight. The country's ruler fled in fear, and then mysteriously returned days later to reclaim absolute power. Behind the chaos were shadowy meetings, covert funding, propaganda campaigns, and one of the most controversial intelligence operations of the 20th century. The reason? Oil. But the story of the Iran oil crisis is not just about energy or economics. It is a story of pride, power, and a nation's struggle to control its own destiny. It is a story about how the decisions of powerful governments can echo across generations. And the consequences of what happened in Iran in 1953 are still shaping global politics today. But how did it all begin? To understand the crisis, we have to travel back several decades, to a time when Iran, then known to many as Persia, was standing on the edge of transformation. And if you enjoy discovering the hidden moments that shaped our world, consider subscribing to Echoes of History, where we explore the past to understand the forces shaping our present. At the beginning of the 20th century, Persia was a proud nation with an ancient history stretching back thousands of years. Empires had risen and fallen across its vast deserts and mountains. Yet beneath its soil lay a resource that would soon draw the attention of the most powerful nations on Earth. In 1908, British prospectors searching in the southwestern region of Persia made a discovery that would change the country forever. They struck oil. At the time, oil was quickly becoming the most valuable resource in the industrial world. It powered ships, fueled factories, and drove the engines of modern warfare. Recognizing the strategic importance of this discovery, British investors moved rapidly to secure control of the oil fields. Soon, a company known as the Anglo-Persian Oil Company was formed. The company received extensive rights from the Persian monarchy to explore and extract oil from vast areas of the country. For Britain, the discovery was a strategic breakthrough. Oil from Persia would soon fuel the ships of the Royal Navy and strengthen the British Empire's global dominance. But the agreement between Persia and the British company came with a serious imbalance. While the oil flowed out of Persia's deserts and into the global market, much of the profit flowed in the opposite direction, toward London. Iran received only a small share of the revenue generated from its own natural resources. In the southern city of Abadan, the Anglo-Persian Oil Company built one of the largest oil refineries in the world. Towering industrial structures rose above the desert landscape. Pipelines stretched across miles of terrain. Abadan quickly became the beating heart of the oil industry. But just outside the refinery's gates, Iranian workers lived under harsh conditions. Many worked long hours for low pay while British staff enjoyed comfortable housing, exclusive clubs, and modern amenities. For the Iranian people, the contrast was impossible to ignore. Over time, resentment began to grow. Intellectuals, journalists, and politicians increasingly questioned why a foreign company controlled such a critical part of Iran's economy. Why should Iran's most valuable resource be dominated by outsiders? By the mid-20th century, nationalism was rising across the country. Iran, like many nations in the post-World War II world, was beginning to demand greater control over its future. Amid this atmosphere of political awakening, a determined and charismatic leader rose to prominence. His name was Mohammad Mossadegh. Mossadegh came from an aristocratic background and had studied law in Europe. But he became known as a passionate defender of Iranian sovereignty. He believed that Iran's oil belonged to the Iranian people. In 1951, Mossadegh became the Prime Minister of Iran. Shortly after taking office, he introduced a bold and controversial proposal. He called for the nationalization of the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. This meant that Iran would take full control of its oil industry. To millions of Iranians, the decision was electrifying. Crowds celebrated in the streets. For many, nationalization represented a long overdue correction of an unfair arrangement. At last, they believed, Iran would benefit from its own resources. But across the globe in London, the reaction was very different. British leaders were outraged. The Anglo-Iranian Oil Company was one of Britain's most valuable overseas assets. Losing control of the oil fields threatened not only profits but also Britain's global strategic power. The British government demanded that Iran reverse the nationalization. Mossadegh refused. What followed was a tense economic standoff. Britain imposed sanctions on Iran and organized an international boycott of Iranian oil. British engineers withdrew from Abadan, shutting down operations. Without access to global markets, Iran struggled to sell its oil. The economy began to suffer. The confrontation became known as the Abadan crisis, named after the giant refinery at the center of the dispute. Despite the economic pressure, Mossadegh remained defiant. He believed that surrendering control of the oil industry would betray the Iranian people. Yet the crisis was quickly becoming larger than a dispute between Iran and Britain. Another global force was watching closely: the United States. By the early 1950s, the world was locked in the Cold War, a tense ideological struggle between Western democracies and the Soviet Union. Iran occupied a crucial geographic position near the Soviet border. American officials feared that political instability in Iran could allow communist groups to gain influence. Although Mossadegh was not a communist, the uncertainty surrounding the crisis worried policymakers in Washington. At first, the United States attempted to mediate between Iran and Britain. American diplomats hoped to negotiate a compromise that would allow Iran greater control of its oil while protecting Western interests. But negotiations repeatedly failed. Frustrated by Mossadegh's refusal to back down, British intelligence officials began discussing a more radical solution. What if Mossadegh could simply be removed from power? At first, the idea seemed extreme, but as Cold War tensions intensified, the United States gradually became more receptive to the proposal. Inside the CIA, planners began developing a covert strategy. The operation was given a name: Operation Ajax. The plan was to destabilize Mossadegh's government and restore the authority of Iran's monarch, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. The Shah had ruled Iran for years but had lost influence under Mossadegh's leadership. Western intelligence agencies believed that strengthening the Shah would ensure Iran remained aligned with Western interests. The operation relied on a combination of propaganda, political pressure, and covert funding. CIA operatives worked with local allies inside Iran to spread anti-government messages through newspapers and radio broadcasts. They secretly funded political groups opposed to Mossadegh. Protests began appearing across Tehran. At first, the demonstrations seemed like spontaneous expressions of public frustration. But behind the scenes, events were being carefully influenced. The atmosphere in the capital became increasingly volatile. Supporters of Mossadegh marched through the streets defending nationalization. Opponents accused the government of mismanaging the economy. Rumors and accusations spread rapidly. Iran stood on the edge of political chaos. In August 1953, the crisis reached its climax. A plan was put into motion to remove Mossadegh from power. But the first attempt failed. Mossadegh learned of the plot and acted quickly to defend his government. The Shah fled the country, fearing for his safety. For a moment, it seemed the coup had collapsed. But the situation changed dramatically only days later. New demonstrations erupted in Tehran. Crowds supporting the Shah filled the streets. Military units loyal to the monarchy began mobilizing. Violence broke out. Tanks rolled through the capital. Government buildings were attacked. Eventually, Mossadegh's residence was surrounded and bombarded. The prime minister was arrested. The coup had succeeded. The Shah returned to Iran and soon consolidated his authority. In the years that followed, the oil industry was reorganized. Western oil companies formed a consortium that resumed production, though Iran received a greater share of the profits than before. But the political consequences of the coup would prove far more significant. Under the Shah, Iran entered a period of rapid modernization and economic development. Infrastructure expanded, industries grew, and the country became a key ally of the United States in the region. Yet political freedoms remained limited. Opposition groups were suppressed by the Shah's powerful security service, known as Savak. For many Iranians, the events of 1953 remained a painful memory. The overthrow of Mossadegh came to symbolize foreign interference in Iran's internal affairs. Over time, dissatisfaction with the Shah's rule continued to grow. Students, workers, religious leaders, and intellectuals increasingly demanded political reform. By the late 1970s, protests erupted across the country. Millions of people filled the streets demanding the end of the monarchy. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution overthrew the Shah and established a new Islamic republic under Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. The revolution dramatically transformed Iran's relationship with the West. Tensions between Iran and the United States grew sharply, culminating in the hostage crisis at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. Many historians believe the roots of that hostility can be traced back to the events of 1953. The Iran oil crisis and the CIA-backed coup left a deep imprint on the nation's political memory. It became a powerful symbol of the struggle for sovereignty and control over natural resources. Today, the echoes of that crisis can still be heard. The story raises important questions about power, intervention, and the global competition for energy. Who should control a nation's resources? When powerful countries intervene in the affairs of others, what consequences follow? And how do decisions made in secret shape the course of history? The Iran oil crisis reminds us that history is rarely simple. It is a story of ambition and fear, of pride and resistance, and of a nation determined to control its own future. And more than 70 years later, the echoes of that moment still resonate across the world. If you found this story insightful, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the 1953 coup changed the course of the Middle East forever? And for more stories that uncover the hidden moments shaping our world, like this video and subscribe to Echoes of History.